Hey, super excited to talk about are leaders born or made? Well, the reality is that every leader, good or bad, they're born. However, they have to be developed over time. So, another cockpit conversation today with Dana and Jason. I'm Jason Harris, retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. I've spent nearly 30 years military service, flying airplanes around the world, mobility airplanes, special operations, and finished my career as a KC-46 Squadron Tanker Squadron Commander. Now I'm a keynote speaker, executive coach, author, and airline pilot. And I've got Dana with me today, and we're going to have a cool conversation about leadership. So, what's on your mind, Dana?
So I like the fact that you led off with "Are leaders born or made?" And what was the first leader that you could remember making an impact on your life?
Wow, the first leader to make an impact on my life. Interestingly enough, like I would actually go all the way back to elementary school. I would go to like some of my teachers. I think teachers are leaders. And so I remember my second grade teacher, Mrs. Johnson. I remember how she mentored me and guided me and helped to bring out something in me that needed to be brought out at that time. And it sounds crazy. And then, as far as other leaders, like there are other teachers along that path. There's my principal that I remember. Man, I got a lot of swats from Mr. Broughton, but Mr.
Mr.
Jerry
B,
Broughton, yeah,
Jerry
Mr. Jerry
Broad, I
Broughton,
remember him.
he was a leader, and so he impacted me and my world. My pastor, Bishop Holcomb, he impacted my world.
Great man.
Some of the men and women in the church that we grew up in, they were leaders and they made a difference. So I literally, there are so many people in my path and on my journey that made a significant difference for me along the way, and I consider every single one of them leaders that made a difference and had an impact in my life and shaped me to be who I am today.
Do you think that as a young man, the young man that you were, and I know the different things that you went through, we won't take time to focus on a lot of the negative, right? But at what point do you feel like you realized you were a leader yourself?
Oh man, at what point do I feel like I was a leader myself? That I don't know if there's a specific point that I said, "Oh, I'm a leader." But I do realize at a younger age, somewhere during elementary school, that I had a level of influence where other people were following me in
That's what, yeah,
school.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And of course, I would love to get your perspective because you got to watch me as my sibling, but I saw people were following me in school, and then I think beyond school, because school is this interesting dynamic. I think for me, not think, but I know part of that recognition and realization of my leadership abilities became even more evident during the in the church environment because
Mm.
I had some of the young kids that were younger than me. I was still a kid, but they were younger than me and they wanted to follow me and they wanted to look up to me. And so I began to help with the youth ministry in church. And so I understood that I had some talents and that not everybody else was being asked to help lead the children's church. Not everybody was asked to help orchestrate various things. And so if I go back and sit there and actually do an assessment, it was all the way back then that I recognized that I had some leadership talent.
So from my perspective, my vantage point, obviously you were a leader because you had a younger brother. Um, but the mature version of me, when I look at it, I realize you were a leader when you were willing to do things that other people weren't willing to do, good and bad. I saw a lot of both, right? So I saw I saw, for example, um, when mom was in the army and we would walk, I'm going to assume it was 2 to 3 miles. We would walk to the pool or to the DYA. And as kids, we're just thinking, hey, we get to go play at the pool all day, or we get to go play games, shoot basketball, pool, and everything else at the DYA, right? But it wasn't a lot of kids that were walking to the DYA and to the pool. They were getting dropped off. We would be willing to walk when everybody's bike wasn't working. And so we would be hanging out and having fun, and people would ask you, hey, so How'd y'all get here? I'm getting picked up at 2 o'clock. Oh yeah, well, we're walking home when we're ready to go. So I saw those leadership qualities in you early on. And I think even when you became a teenager, I remember the last time you played football. I knew you played baseball at an early age, and you enjoyed it, right? I was always kind of jealous because I didn't get to play, but you showed me leadership qualities as well when everybody's always talking about football. Our oldest brother played football, things like that. You played football for like 1 or 2 years and was like, yeah, this ain't me. This is just not my thing. And so then you transitioned, and by eighth grade, you got into horses, and you eventually played tennis in high school. So I think being willing to go left when everyone else is going right shows leadership qualities in a young man such as yourself at the time. So in that journey, do you think that I want you to share with the people just a little bit about that experience working with horses and how it helped develop you and build some life lessons within you as a leader at a young age?
Yeah, working with horses was a significant deal for me. It changed my life. It saved my life. I often say that horses actually saved my life and made a difference for me. At a time where I was contemplating selling drugs, at a time where I was close to getting kicked out of school for a third time. And it was the introduction of horses that made a difference for me. And to your point, there were many different moments in my world at an early age, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, to your point, where I was willing to go left when others went right. And I was willing to be different and not be as concerned with being liked. We all want to be liked, we all want to be loved, we all want to be respected, we all want to be valued, but it's where you find that love, liking, that respect, and that value and that belonging. It's where you find that at that makes a difference. And so for me, when I made that determination about the horses, I found belonging. But interestingly
Mm,
enough, it was not belonging with my peers. It was belonging
correct.
and acceptance with adults. It was belonging and acceptance in a community where I got to be around wise counsel on a regular basis as far as the foundation of my introduction to the horse world, if you would. And then the
Hmm.
horses was it was an escape. It was an escape from everything else that was there. Like
Hmm.
I could have easily gotten into drugs. I could have easily gotten into alcohol. I could have easily gotten into criminal activity. I experimented with a little bit of each of those things, but I never went all in on any of those three things: drugs, alcohol, and criminal activity. Thankfully, I went all in on horses.
Hmm.
And there's a fourth thing: girls, of course, right? So like, and instead of me going all in on any of those four things that could have deterred me off of my path, I went all in on the horses. When everybody
Hmm.
else was going right, I went left, and the horses made a difference in my world, and that became my world, and that's why I say that they saved my life.
Do you think that your experience with people like Mr. Foster and the different grown men that you used to seek out for wise counsel and leadership as a teenager, do you think that, or how do you think that helped you when you got to the Air Force Academy and then eventually got into your career as a Air Force pilot and then also as a airline pilot? How did those things help you with seeking out leadership or leaders to bring into your circle of influence when you became a professional?
Yeah, I think those relationships that I had, and you asked specifically about Mr. Foster, Mr. Foster, he's an amazing person that showed up in my life at a very critical time. When I was in eighth grade, he was the gateway to horses. He owned a couple of horses at the time. He gave me the offer to come and be around horses, and I took him up on that. And he made me a promise that I could hang around the horses as long as I stayed out of trouble. And so once I made that commitment to stay out of trouble because I wanted to be around the horses, and there were other things that he offered as far as, he was a coach, and so I could be around some elite athletes. I got to meet different professional athletes. I got to meet musical artists and things of that nature based on his role that he had where we lived at, but also the impact that he had on me as far as the conversations that we would have when it was just he and I. And it was those conversations that we would have that began to open my mind to what was possible. It was the
Mm-hmm.
conversations that began to expose me to what was possible, exposed me to what I was capable of, and exposed me to a whole other world that existed beyond my doorstep. And so
Mm.
the impact on that when I go all the way forward to my career, when I go all the way forward to the Air Force Academy, was understanding how to use my voice. It was understanding how to seek out those people who might be older than me that might not be in my peer group, but are willing to help me. It was understanding how to position the conversations. It was understanding how to engage in the conversation. It was understanding how to literally make the ask. And so those things impacted how I showed up in my career. And they inevitably helped me to reach a level of success early on that I was able to build upon and continue to stack beyond just the basic entry level of success that I had.
What would you? It's 2026. Um, LinkedIn is very, very big for business and social media and things like that. What would you say to a person who is maybe looking for a mentor? Because we all have our own like virtual mentors. There's a bunch of uncles that I have in cyberspace and things like that that I've never met. But what wisdom would you share with someone who's looking to seek out a mentor, whether it's in business, whether it's in their career, whether it's just in personal growth and development? What things would you say to those people?
I think it's important that you have mentors. I think the difference in today versus when I was coming up, when I was coming up, we didn't have LinkedIn, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have the social media stuff, but there were
Hmm.
books, obviously, and so you have the potential to learn right now. You have the potential to learn a lot just by the access to information, but
Facts.
information is not power, contrary to what everybody has heard. You have information at your fingertips, but I guarantee you, you've probably gotten information that you haven't done anything with. So, what kind of power did that create for you? Nothing,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So, information is not power; it's what you do with it. And so you can gain knowledge from the access to information and the access to people by way of watching what they put out in content. But then the other side of that is in terms of to what you're more specifically asking as far as pursuing a mentor. What I would say is start with what's right around you. Start with what's in your circle of influence. And then figure out, and that might be in your community. That might be with your teachers, that might be with your professors, that might be with your coaches, that might be with some of your family members that you see that have a level of success, and they might be connected to somebody that you can have a conversation with. And sometimes you choose the mentor, and sometimes the mentor chooses you, but regardless of what direction that comes in, you have to be ready for what's next. And you have to be ready. If you're asking that person to pour into you, you have to be ready to listen, you have to be ready to engage, and you have to be ready to take action and make it worthwhile for that person to mentor you. And
That's
understand
good.
that if somebody is mentoring you, that doesn't mean that they're going to give you everything. That doesn't mean they're going to give you everything all the time. You see, some people, they want to be spoon fed. If I mentor somebody, I'm not spoon feeding you. I'm sharing
Not at
with you
all.
how, you know what I'm saying? I'm sharing with you how
Not at
I've done
all.
what I've done, but that don't mean I'm gonna give you all the answers. Some of the answers you're gonna have to go out and find yourself. If you come to my doorstep and you try to ask me for answers that are just a simple Google query away, I'm
That's a waste
likely
of your time.
exactly.
Yeah.
So so seek out the counsel, but make sure that when you show up looking for a mentor, you don't waste that person's time, because time is valuable, and they need to know that you're serious about what it is that you're trying to do, and not somebody who's just trying to waste time. So I don't know if I've answered that question all the way, but just those are some thoughts that I have based on what you asked about mentor, getting a mentor for those who are trying to go beyond where they're at currently.
I think, and you definitely answered it, and we went from leadership to mentoring, and sometimes they I think they go together. One of my biggest discoveries about leadership, mentoring, and coaching is that the best leaders, the best mentors, the best coaches, they have conversations with you to where you really come up with most of the answers. They ask you things and they discuss things with you that spark you to go deeper into thought and realize I do have many of the solutions that I'm looking for. And I think that that's why I started out on that journey of going back to when you were younger, because from my vantage point, I realized that you started out on a journey of being a leader at a very young age. And I think that many people out here do the same thing, but sometimes self doubt, sometimes life and just things happening to us can cause us to second guess whether we truly belong, whether we truly are a leader, and whether we're capable of leading people. And so it just starts with going back and reflecting on your journey of your experiences, and then fast forward to now and say, hey, if you kind of go through your mental Rolodex, you realize, like, wait, this isn't surprising that I'm a airline pilot, keynote speaker, executive coach, because I had these experiences going back to second grade when I was in that class with Miss Johnson. For me, it was Miss Minnie Jones in first grade, Clark Elementary School. So uh, let's walk away with some parting thoughts that you want to give to people in regards to leadership, in regards to seeking out mentors and people to follow as well.
Yeah, what I would say is do a self assessment. Who are you? What are you? Where are you? And then what are your strengths? What are your character traits? And where do you want to go in life? How are you going to get there? And then what's in your immediate sphere of influence of people you could reach out to get some advice, to get some context, and get some help? Your teachers, your coaches, your professors, some of your family members that have a measure of success that might seem untouchable. Reach out to them. They're likely willing to have that conversation when you indicate that you're interested. And one of the things that I learned during my military career, I wasn't on the success trajectory, and because I wasn't on the success trajectory, I didn't think I had a chance to get on that like super fast paced success trajectory. And one of my friends, peers, but yet older than me by a few years, and mentor slash coach, he said, "Hey man," he says, "you need to put in the application for this thing when it comes up." And I was like, "Why would I do that? I don't even think I'm qualified to do that." He says, "It's not about whether you're qualified or not." He says, "You need to let people know that you want to be a player." And I thought, well, that's
Mm.
interesting. He says, because once you let them know that you want to be a player, then they will take a look at you and they will try to figure out how to help you to get into the game. And sure enough, I applied, I put my name in the hat, and people saw that I was serious and I was interested, and they knew that I wanted to be a player. And then they start looking deeper at me to realize I had the capacity to be a player, and they would help me to play. So, to that point, in your sphere of influence, there are people who know how to go to the next level. There are people who are a level or two or three ahead of you. Ask them how they got there. Ask them what can you do to get to where you're trying to go, or to at least go up one level. But don't be afraid to reach out and ask people for insight, wisdom, guidance to help you to figure out what's next. Do the assessment to understand who you are, what you are, where you are, but also where you're trying to go. And and then understand what is it going to take to get there. So that those are the lessons that I would say I would leave people with right now that are looking to be a leader, looking to lead in their current space, looking to lead on a larger level and a bigger capacity, it starts with where you're at now. It starts with good coaching, good mentors, wisdom, guidance from the right people that you have access to already. And then from there, looking beyond that sphere and seeing how do you have those conversations, but also what actions you're going to take individually to make sure that when you do have that conversation with somebody, they go, you know what, you're actually set up for success. You're serious about it, and I'm willing to actually help you.
That's good, man. That's good. Well, I think it's time to land this plane, man. Another great cockpit conversation. Take us out with something good.
Hey man, no matter what you're doing in life, there's always somebody out there who is willing to help you. There are lots of people around you that are sitting on a wealth of knowledge. I would encourage people to not be afraid to ask, not be afraid to reach out to people and ask for wisdom, guidance, and then more importantly, put in the work to show your level of commitment to where you want to go. Knowledge is not power. It's not enough to have the information. It's most important to actually do something with the information you got. So put in the work, reach out, get wise counsel, seek guidance, and get after it. That's it.
Sounds like that's a wrap. We're landing this plane, brother.
Sounds good. Thanks again, man. I appreciate the conversation. Blue skies, fair winds, and all the best. We'll see y'all next time.